Did you know that your subconscious doesn't know the difference between something imagined and something real? We can use that to improve your life. Delusional is defined as having a fixed, unshakable belief in something that isn't true, despite evidence to the contrary. Today, I want to talk about how being delusional can help you fulfill your dreams. Welcome back to my channel, Closer to Your Higher Self. My name is Jerome. I'm a coach and personal trainer. And on this channel, I share things that will help you be a better version of yourself. Now, if my content resonates with you and you'd like to see more of it, please hit the like button, consider subscribing, and share it with anyone you think would benefit from it. Let's do a thought experiment. There's a person, we'll call him Fred. Fred is sedentary and hasn't exercised in ages. One day he sees a flyer and decides he's going to run a marathon. Now, what kinds of behaviors would lead us to believe that Fred will be successful? Well, we would expect him to do things that runners do. Marathon runners have running shoes, so he's going to need to buy some of those. We would expect him to start running, at least short distances at first. Maybe look for a running program online or sign up for a training course. Marathon runners eat differently than he does now. Fred also needs to sign up for a race. But what is the one thing that has the most bearing on whether Fred will be successful? His mindset. Your mindset is your set of beliefs and attitudes that shape how you see the world. Fred needs to be able to see himself as a marathon runner because marathon runners do the things that we just talked about. Action follows thought, which follows belief. In other words, you have a belief, that belief determines your thoughts, and then your thoughts influence your actions. Belief, thought, action. If, after he sees the flyer, he decides, I could never run a marathon, we would not expect to see him at the finish line. Because that belief would be followed by thoughts like, that's too hard, or I could hurt myself, and the resulting action is Fred binging Netflix. But if Fred can develop a fixed, unshakable belief in his ability to run the marathon, he's going to be successful. Okay, part 2 of the thought experiment. Now, I like to hear stories of famous musicians and their journeys to fame. There used to be a show called Behind the Music. And this show chronicled these stories and talked about what these musicians went through to make it. Years on tour buses, making very little money, not being accepted, using credit cards to record demos, not being paid by promoters. They all have different stories, but then one day it finally hit me. They all had one thing in common. They didn't give up. They believed in themselves. Their mindset included the belief that they would be successful. A deep, unshakable belief in their ability to be successful, despite evidence to the contrary. They were delusional. Prince, my favorite musician and arguably one of the most prolific musical geniuses of all time, released over 40 albums and sold over 150 million records. He was booed when he was an opening act. But that didn't shake his belief in himself. And almost every one of them has a story like that. But they still believe in themselves. So what's the difference between Fred and the famous musicians? Well, for the purposes of this discussion, nothing. If Fred can't see himself as a marathon runner, he's not going to buy running shoes and do all of the other things. If Taylor Swift doesn't think she can make it as a singer, she's not going to perform and record songs. In both cases, action is directed by thought, and the thought is in line with the belief. They are already being that successful person before they've achieved the outward success. In their minds, in their subconscious, they are already there despite physical evidence to the contrary. They're delusional. And like I mentioned earlier, your subconscious doesn't know the difference between something real and something imagined. This is why you can think about the negative interaction you had with your boss and feel that exact same way you did during the interaction. Simply remembering the interaction makes your subconscious feel as though it's happening again. Okay, so we have Fred, we have the famous musicians, and let's do one more, a third part to our thought experiment. Many people have delusional beliefs about relationships. I just watched a video about a group of young men in our society that believe you can't have a relationship if you're not over 6 feet tall and wealthy. Now, as someone who was not 6 feet tall or wealthy, I can tell you for a fact that that sentiment is not true. But does that matter if it's ingrained in the subconscious? If it's a part of their mindset? No. The subconscious makes it real. And I included this part to illustrate that hacking reality can be done in the negative direction. Because there's so much talk about manifesting and creating your reality, and people speak about it as though it's like a switch you flip when you want something positive. That's false. You are always creating your reality, positive or negative. Whether you're aware of it or not, you're always creating. And to create something new, you need to be able to think outside of your current reality. And our biggest obstacle to this is that we think today is going to be the exact same as yesterday. You don't believe your dreams are possible because you can't see a straight line from where you are now to where you want to be. Meanwhile, there are people that are achieving the exact things that you want to achieve in life. They aren't smarter than you. They aren't more talented. They aren't better than you. The only difference is mindset. Now, you might be thinking, I just can't get there. It's hard for me to see myself on the other side. And if you're like most people, it's because you want to know exactly how every step is going to happen. You're using your analytical mind, and you need to use the subconscious mind. So here's an exercise. Set a timer for 5 minutes. Use your imagination and think, what if? Imagine how you would feel if you lived your dream. How would you look if you lost the weight? What clothes would you wear? Imagine the compliments you'll get from people. Imagine all those things. Before I bought this place, my realtor sent me the pictures. And I said, I want that place. I can see myself living there. I imagine myself cooking in the kitchen. When I was in the shower, I closed my eyes for a few seconds and imagined I was showering in one of the bathrooms here. When I was meditating on the couch, I imagined I was in this place. I sent pictures to my friends and family and said, what do you guys think of this place? I drove past the parking lot to feel what it would feel like to come home to this place. And the kicker is, I did all this before I actually even saw the place in person. So try this exercise and use as many senses as possible with your imagined outcomes. Imagine what you would see, smell, taste, hear, feel, and have fun with it. Be audacious. Imagine it's a movie. And let yourself get into it the same way you would if you were sitting in a movie theater. But you're not watching yourself. The movie is from your point of view. And don't get too analytical. You're just imagining or pretending. And now if you can really begin to feel it, you'll get into your subconscious. And your subconscious will always win over your conscious mind. And if you can do this consistently, you'll get to the point where you can internalize your movie as a belief. Now you've changed your mindset. And now once it's a belief, your thoughts around your dream will start to change. Instead of thinking, I could never do this, you'll start thinking, what if I did that? You'll start to get inspired by new ideas. You'll meet people that will be able to help you. You'll start taking action in the direction of that new belief. Because actions are driven by thoughts which are informed by beliefs. beliefs, thoughts, actions. Now, do this for 5 minutes and actually feel yourself in the movie. Every person that has done the things that you want to do has done this exercise. Now, it may look a little different for everyone, but essentially the exercise is the same. They are able to believe something despite evidence to the contrary. They aren't waiting to make it to feel successful. They're waiting for the physical world to catch up to where they are internally. That is the only difference between you and the people living the life that you want to live. They're delusional. Be delusional and live your dream life. Now, if you stayed to this point in the video, thank you so much, and I hope to see you in the next one.